How do I pass a variable by reference? Are parameters passed by reference or by value? How do I pass by reference so that the code below outputs changed instead of original?
Arguments are passed by assignment. The rationale behind this is twofold. The parameter passed in is actually a reference to an object, but the reference is passed by value. Some data types are mutable, but others aren't. So, if you pass a mutable object into a method, the method gets a reference to that same object and you can mutate it to your heart's delight. But if you rebind the reference in the method, the outer scope will know nothing about it, and after you're done, the outer reference will still point at the original object. If you pass an immutable object to a method, you still can't rebind the outer reference, and you can't even mutate the object. To make it even more clear, let's have some examples. List, a mutable type. Let's try to modify the list that was passed to a method. Output. Since the parameter passed in is a reference to outer_list, not a copy of it, we can use the mutating list methods to change it, and have the changes reflected in the outer scope. Now let's see what happens when we try to change the reference that was passed in as a parameter. Output. Since the they_list parameter was passed by value, assigning a new list to it had no effect that the code outside the method could see. The they_list was a copy of the outer_list reference, and we had the _list point to a new list, but there was no way to change where outer_list pointed. String, an immutable type. It's immutable, so there's nothing we can do to change the contents of the string. Now, let's try to change the reference. Output. Again, since the the_string parameter was passed by value, assigning a new string to it had no effect that the code outside the method could see. The the_string was a copy of the outer_string reference, and we had the _string point to a new string, but there was no way to change where outer_string pointed. I hope this clears things up a little. Edit. It's been noted that this doesn't answer the question that David originally asked. Is there something I can do to pass the variable by actual reference? Let's work on that. How do we get around this? As Andrea's answer shows, you could return the new value. This doesn't change the way things are passed in, but does let you get the information you want back out. If you really wanted to avoid using a return value, you could create a class to hold your value, and pass it into the function or use an existing class, like a list. Although this seems a little cumbersome,
The problem comes from a misunderstanding of what variables are in Python. If you're used to most traditional languages, you have a mental model of what happens in the following sequence. You believe that A is a memory location that stores the value 1, then is updated to store the value 2. That's not how things work in Python. Rather, A starts as a reference to an object with the value 1, then gets reassigned as a reference to an object with the value 2. Those two objects may continue to coexist even though A doesn't refer to the first one anymore. In fact, they may be shared by any number of other references within the program. When you call a function with a parameter, a new reference is created that refers to the object passed in. This is separate from the reference that was used in the function call, so there's no way to update that reference and make it refer to a new object. In your example, self.variable is a reference to the string object original. When you call change, you create a second reference var to the object. Inside the function, you reassign the reference var to a different string object changed, but the reference self.variable is separate and does not change. The only way around this is to pass a mutable object. Because both references refer to the same object, any changes to the object are reflected in both places.
I found the other answers rather long and complicated, so I created this simple diagram to explain the way Python treats variables and parameters.
It is neither passed by value or passed by reference, it is called by object. See this, by Friedrich Lund. This URL. Here is a significant quote. Variables, names, are not objects, they cannot be denoted by other variables or referred to by objects. In your example, when the change method is called, a namespace is created for it, and var becomes a name, within that namespace, for the string object original. That object then has a name in two namespaces. Next, var equals changed binds var to a new string object, and thus the method's namespace forgets about original. Finally, that namespace is forgotten, and the string changed along with it.
If you want to share more, please consider subscribing.